Hey guys, Anfield here, and welcome back to the Ranger Awakening Compendium, my updated series of guides to replace my old Bible series. Having finished the PvE sides of the guides, we're now moving on to the PvP. With the PvE videos, I separated them into two parts with early game and end game videos. For PvP, we're going to be doing something along similar sort of lines by starting off with movement and protection. The reason I've chosen to start here is I firmly believe that when learning any class, learning how to move and keep yourself protected is the first step you should always take. You won't be winning any fights if you're CC'd and dead all the time. With that in mind, I've once again partnered with Flannels for these videos. You can find the links to his Twitch in the description box below this video. So let's first talk about what you can expect from Awakened Ranger. Like most classes in modern BDO, Ranger is overly protected. You don't have to use every protected ability to remain protected if that is your sole intention. Ranger is slippery and when played correctly can be an absolute menace for your enemies to CC. This is important for her because of two reasons. Firstly, she is slow. Not so much in like a small area where she can rapidly relocate in a short space, but she won't be chasing anyone down, even if you did have the stamina to do so, or more critically, outrunning anybody. Second is Ranger doesn't trade damage through protection. This means you achieve nothing if you cannot CC your opponent, unlike many other classes who can achieve a kill without actually landing a CC. With this in mind, your ability to keep an opponent frustrated trying to catch you, but also fearful of your own CC threat, is the core of Awakening gameplay. Once you've got a handle on your protected abilities and movement, your next hurdle will be managing your stamina, which, I'll be honest, it's pretty rotten. But I'm not here to soapbox about PA's arbitrary stamina punishments to some and not others when it comes to mobility. It is also important to understand how to use your movement to maintain a threat and also to continue to probe for weaknesses and vulnerabilities in your opponents. We will be covering all of this as much as possible in this guide. So let's start with the basics. Wind Step is your dash, your bread and butter really. It consumes stamina on use to provide an iframe on a 2-second cooldown. Typically, you will not be spamming this ability. It consumes too much stamina, is unprotected when cooling down, and isn't going to win you any foot races. This is activated by using W plus right mouse button to go forwards or simply R and B to go backwards. It is important to note that when you're using backwards wind step, it actually has no collision, and this can come in handy. Moving on to the next Awakening iframe, although I'll mention at this point they are only partial iframes, let's talk about Rushing Wind. Rushing Wind is an iframe into super armor with a 4-second cooldown. It is a simple R&B input that flows from many abilities. These are Waltz of Wind, Breezy Blade, Vine Knot, Winds of the Prairie, Guardian Wind, Wind of Blade, and Spirit Haven. Rushing Wind, if you do build for damage or are in a capped fight perhaps, is one of the few abilities that can deal some measure of damage to a target who is not CC'd. It is actually valuable to try and hit someone with this and not always to move away from them due to its 20% slow. Next up we have Winds of the Prairie, activated with Shift plus Space. This ability starts with iframe and ends in super armor. With an 8-second cooldown, this ability is either used to back up or to create confusing mobility with moving the camera to control it. Sadly, it cannot be manipulated with mouse movement, however. Our final Awakening skill with iframe is another iframe into super armor, Spirit's Haven. This ability was reworked from the ability you will see in the Bible videos into a jumping mobility skill. The jump animation is iframe with the landing attack being super armor. This ability can be a powerful tool of survival given the extra movement and also the bonus 20 DP on the cast. But it can also be used offensively, both to gap close a CC target or to fish a grab. But also, you can use it with mouse movement to control your position. The animation cancel from regeneration is also still possible, and if you wish to remain in place where you cast regeneration, you can use mouse movement to accomplish this. There are two further iframes worth mentioning just to move away from the Awakening kit briefly, that is Evasive Explosive Shot and Evasive Landing Shot. ES is a old school ability providing 2 iframe cartwheels in a row by using A or D plus right mouse button, but Evasive Landing Shot is a new ability that can be chained out of certain bow skills with a Shift plus R and B input. This is an ability that is iframe into super armor similar to the other Awakening abilities we have covered. Doubling back to Awakening, there are only a few remaining abilities related to movement to cover. This is Breezy Blade, a 4-second cooldown super armor often chained with a simple left mouse button or from the hotbar, so you can do it without a parent ability. Then there is the more popular core of Waltz of Wind, which usually you just have an unprotected knockback, but using it as your core ability provides you an added movement super armor that when timed correctly can go through opponents who are forward guard, leaving them CC'd. This is an outstanding catch mechanic, and Waltz is a simple S plus F or W plus F input. However, the majority of the time you will just do W and F and use mouth movement if you don't want to go so far. You may use the S and F though to kite into a shotgun forward guard, however. Talking about shotgun is a nice transition back to the bow for our final mobility protections. Shotgun is a nickname for extreme charging wind, a legacy skill for the ranger kit, a bow skill that provides a backwards propelling forward guard. It flows nicely into other protected bow skills we will now cover. I already mentioned evasive landing shot, but it's worth noting that this can be activated out of shotgun with shift plus R&B. Riding the wind and twisting the wind are almost identical super armor abilities with the same A or D plus shift input, or A plus D and space if you're using riding the wind out of evasive explosive shot. These abilities are important for Awakening's protection chaining, so they cannot be neglected. Just a quick mention of Call from Sky and Air Explosion Shot. These are largely useless in Awakening compared to Succession, but to cover them fast, Call from Sky is a stamina heavy jump that is clunky to use in Awakening since you need to press W and then move with a light tap on your left mouse button. You have to tap it really fast and release, and then you press spacebar and it should activate. There will always nearly kind of be a better option than this skill, and the same can be said for Air Explosion Shot, which is simply an extra jump out of R&B while you're using Call from Sky. Our final ability to mention is the skill enhancement Wind Explosion Shot. You could debate between this or Will of Descending Current, which is a CC, but a stamina regenerating, slow applying, backwards mobility skill is very important in my opinion. It can be activated from the hopper, or you can use the LMB input to use it right after evasive landing shot. It's super nice. As I mentioned, this can apply slow, and this is a 25% movement slow to your enemies, and it's fully super armor, which is excellent for kiting. The only downside is the 20-second cooldown. So that wraps up our protected movement. None of this is going to move you like a Nova in Excel, but it will do the job. Again, stamina management is what you will need to be careful with here. Remember, if you can and need to, it's okay to S-block. That is walking backwards in the Awakening stance, which provides a forward guard and lets you regenerate your stamina. In general, this is a core thing to recognize in your fights, when you may be able to take a breather and activate a forward guard. You will also maybe under certain situations use other forward guarded abilities, such as Wailing Wind, Nature's Tremble, or Windblade to try and forward guard and hit your opponent back, but these will be more niche. So let's look at the movement combos and what you can do. I'll start by saying that one of the nice things for Ranger is that she has so many cancels that you're allowed in between Awakening abilities. This allows for a greater deal of creativity as well as flexibility. I unironically recommend that you try to do different abilities from each other after you get a grasp of their independent key inputs. However, we are going to actually break down some movement chains here. So I've broken down a couple of Flannels' duels here, and the first two I actually completely broke them down. I slowed them down for you, and I put all the key inputs on the screen that he uses. This one I thought was interesting because of the bow chaining here. It was almost complete aside from maybe like shotgun, but what I really liked about this specific duel was, first off, you can see when he's choosing to use his specific iframes is when the Hashishun's closing on him. So you can see here the Hashishun gets close, so that's straight into the evasive landing shot there to get the iframe and slow. But then what's really cool here is Waltz of Wind being used from the bow. Normally you can't do that, but if you hotbar your Waltz of Wind, you actually can use it from the bow to get the CC there. Thought that was really cool. This next duel is against a warrior. Now, the reason I broke down this duel, and I kind of regret it because it took me a long time to break this one down. It goes by pretty quickly on your screen, but believe me, it was not quick for me in the editing process. Like, rate, and subscribe. But yeah, anyway, so this duel I thought was interesting because he pretty much used basically everything in the fight. So that's why I threw this one in here. And as you can see here, once again, we have it slowed down. Not as slow as the other one. This one's 45% slowed. But it does have every skill, and hopefully I've not made a mistake, is on there. So yeah, this is an interesting fight because Warrior has its own grab threat that you have to be very careful of. It's incredibly quick. What you'll also notice is Flannels uses a lot of Blasting Gust fishing here, which is where you send out a quick range CC of Blasting Gust, and then immediately you go into some kind of protection, usually an SA bow skill like Twisting the Wind. So I thought that was kind of interesting for this duel. The duels that come after this I will not commentate on simply because this one took ages, and at that point I hope that you can just kind of get some kind of idea of what's going on the screen. Hopefully you recognize the skills. I don't know. Obviously, a lot of people are going to have different levels of competence at Ranger, so that's totally okay. If you need to slow it down, feel free to do so. If you have any questions, you saw something like, oh, I know that you listed this input here, but I don't know how he's doing this or that, I can have a look at that specific timestamp and tell you what he's doing. So anyway, I hope you enjoy the duels. We've got one against a Suck Ninja, DK, Awakening Dracania, and Striker, I believe. So it's not really about the combos, but, you know, he is going to kill them. But it's more about the play. So I hope you enjoy the protection chaining here that you can see from Flannels, which is obviously expert level. So yeah, that's it. Let's get into them. So I hope you guys enjoyed those clips with Flannels. If you didn't understand something, once again, you can just timestamp something and let me know. Don't forget, YouTube does allow you to slow things down, so you can do that as well. But otherwise, just leave it in the comments section below. Ask me what's going on. If you want to check out more Ranger stuff, I have a ton of stuff on my channel as well. And Flannels and I both stream. So if you want to check out, that's in the description box as well. Next up, we're going to be looking at mouse movement. Mouse movement is the control of their abilities, manipulating them with the mouse. Mouse to move basically allows you to do this. It's a PC thing only, obviously, mouse. You can't do this on console. It allows you to not only manipulate the ability, but it does actually cause a certain amount of desync on your opponent's screen, so it's very, very strong in PvP, and something you do want to check out and learn. For Ranger, for the most part, you're going to put the mouse behind you. You're going to press Control, left mouse button to activate the actual direction of the input, and then you're going to control again to get rid of the mouse. You don't want to leave that on. But yeah, again, most skills you're going to leave it behind you on Ranger. Certain circumstances you may put it off to in front of you to the right or left, you know, like for rushing wind perhaps, if you want to go and just change your direction again. But even that skill, you know, you might want to put it behind you as well. But anyway, this is just showing you how it's done. So that concludes the video, guys. I hope you had a fun time and that you enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to obviously comment, like, do the subscriptions and all that good stuff. I will be making more Ranger videos as I continue to update my Ranger PvP compendiums, and then also probably eventually Suck Ranger stuff as well. So if you want to catch more of that stuff, it will be on my channel, and of course you can always catch it live on my stream. And again, please feel free to check out Flannels on his stream. Link is in the description. But that's it, guys. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you on the next one.